In today's episode, why wildcard DNS causes more harm than good. Busted laptop screen. Help! My screen has gone completely blue. Calculator problem. Tales of woe from an old IT support guy. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. Why wildcard DNS causes more harm than good. A relatively slow day in support, a customer had called up with a recurring issue where when connecting to the company VPN, their mapped drives had not connected and they were told the device was in use. I work in a MSP dealing with many different configurations that have their own little quirks, and this is one of the many. This was my first case of dealing with this specific issue, however it turned out this issue had existed for nearly 2 months. Only slightly shocked by this, I did some basic troubleshooting. The server could be connected to through File Explorer by hostname and IP, and pinging it returned the internal address. Everything looked fine, however I felt that it must have been an issue with DNS, because it's always DNS, and flushed the resolver cache. I tried pinging by hostname again and ended up pinging a VPS, virtual private server, off in the countryside of England. I couldn't understand what was going on, and given that we didn't have much filling up our board, I decided to give the user back their computer, with the drives temporarily working again, and investigate further on our side. I set up a version of their VPN on my test environment, and got the exact same issue. Why was this randomly resolving to something outside of the domain? Tried pinging other subdomains and they were all resolving properly, and nothing looked out of place. In my frustration of not understanding the problem, I made a typo, and instead of www, I had started a ping for wow.client.tld, and who'da thunk it, it resolved the VPS. Turns out when the hosting provider for their website configured it, they decided that there would be nothing wrong with putting a wildcard A record in so that any subdomain would resolve to the website. How naive they were. So, disconnected the VPN, typed in the FQDN, fully qualified domain name, for the server, lo and behold, the rogue VPS. After numerous calls and 3 companies pointing the finger at each other, the hosting company admitted the mistake, and there's shiny new www, and it records taking the place of the monolithic problem causer that had shadowed us for months. In fairness, this issue should have been looked into deeper after the second or third occurrence, but when you're strapped for time on the first line of support, the quick fix feels like the best to keep a client happy. To counter that, never use wildcard DNS records, they cause too much pain down the line for the initial setup. If you do have any proper reason for having a wildcard DNS record in production, you have my interest and time. Busted laptop screen. I was in IT for 47 years and had my own shop for 23 of it. During that time I witnessed many, mostly strange and wonderful things. This is just one such occurrence. I had a healthcare client for several years that primarily did her PC work from home, and she had a son who was about 8 when we started out. Every time I was there to fix something, he was a little shadow wanting to know what I was doing, etc. If mom didn't mind paying me for the extra time that I was taking to answer his questions, it wasn't a bother to me. She said that he was interested in computers. Okay, cool. I can be a mentor. Over time, whenever he'd see me, he'd pump me for info about this system or that one in games. He'd do this when I doing work for his mom, or since he was now older he'd stop into my shop every once in a while. One day the kid with a bandage on his head and a laptop came into the shop. I asked what was going on. Mom looked at the kid and said, "You tell him." The kid slowly started out that there's a problem with the laptop screen. I said, "Okay, let's take a look." I open it up, hearing the plastics crack and creak, and in the middle is a large depression, with little bits of plastic sticking out. The kid said that he was playing a game, was stuck on a level, got pissed off, picked up the laptop and bashed the front and top of his head with it several times. This resulted in several stitches having to be applied, hence the reason for the bandage around his head. He had not only did in the screen, but the base and lid plastics where the hinges attached. After attaching what was left of the laptop to an external monitor and saw that it was still functioning, I gave Mom my diagnosis. Yes, it still works, but the cost of the screen, plastics, and labor might outweigh the cost of a new laptop. By this time, she was really ticked off. I found out that the kid has ADHD and was going to the alternative school. The majority of their school material was online, and that was his laptop for school work. I told her that we have a workaround for home, but not at school. This was around the time that the LCD from CRT technology was going on. Having been a long-time customer, I told her that if she had the space, I'd let her use one of the old CRTs I had for free, and that we could get him going for school at home. We went to her house. She cleaned up a spot at the dining room table where the kid usually sat and said, "Set it up here." I guess the kid was going to be eating somewhere else for a while. About 2 weeks later, she had me over to move his documents and programs, less the games, to the new laptop. Help! My screen has gone completely blue. The first ticket of the morning comes from one of the higher-ups. It's marked as urgent and comes with no additional information. I'm currently in the middle of swapping out all our old tower desktops with micro form factor PCs, and I know this user's PC is older than most, so my first thought is a BSOD or something along those lines. Then the phone starts ringing. It's the user in question. User, my screen has gone blue and I can't get any work done. Me, I know, I just saw your ticket. What exactly does it say on the screen? Is there a QR code displayed? User, can you please just come up and fix it? I can't get anything done like this. If it were any other user, I wouldn't put up with the lack of info and panicked messages, but keeping any higher up happy nets IT more money in the long run. And besides, they did say please. So I head up to their desk. It's a small company and it's less than 2 minutes walk away up a flight of stairs. I get there, and the user is frantically typing away staring at their screen. User, give me 2 seconds to send this email and it's all yours. Okay. Not BSOD then. User finishes typing and hops out of their chair. User, do whatever you need to do, I've left it unlocked. I'll just go grab a coffee. User skips off and I walk around their desk to look at this blue screen. Of the 2 monitors on their desk, the one on the right has a slight blue hue and a mild flicker. I check the cable at the back of the monitor, follow it down to the incredibly dusty tower on the floor, and find the VGA cable slightly loose, not screwed in. I push it in, screw it, and the blue screen disappears. I make a mental note to put the user in for a PC swap and head back downstairs. By the time I get back to my desk, I have an email from the user. User, I don't know what you did, but thank you so much. It's job security, I suppose. Calculator problem. Not in tech support. I am just a 17-year-old boy, but I think this goes here. I was in the examination hall giving a small physics test. We are allowed calculators for examinations, and those are expensive. It is a Casio FX CG50 and costs 11,000 rupees, $150. Since I am good at physics, I was done fairly quickly and handed my answer sheet to the teacher. While walking back, my friend in the front asked me to borrow my calculator. I asked him what happened and he showed me his calculator. Apparently he was calculating square root of some number, and it was giving him answer in square roots. He said there is some setting problem and asked me for my calc again. There was a button on the calc that allowed to change any square root and fractions to decimals. I pressed it and returned his calculator. Mind you, we have been using this calculator for 2 years and this button was also mentioned in the guide. He never even read that and threw it away. Considering these are expensive, anyone would look it up how to use it such that you don't mess something up. I promptly give him his calc, and he thanks me for saving his paper. The twist here is that there were no square root calculations involved in the entire paper. I quietly told him that his answer is wrong and walked away surprised. I scored a full in the test. Tales of woe from an old IT support guy. Just joined this thread, and as a 68 years old who has spent most of his life in IT from support to management, I have accrued a few stories. It was suggested I post a few here. This is part of a story I posted in r/facepalm. About 20 years ago, I was the IT manager for a large London trading bank. The traders, about 100 of them, were not known for being a calm and collected bunch, and one year a trader was so pissed off that he did not get the yearly bonus he wanted/expected. He threw one of the old 14-inch CRT monitors through the second-floor window of the bank, which crashed to the pavement below. He could so easily have killed someone below, but as luck and timing would have it, no one got hurt. Well, he was frog-marched off the premises, and that was the last I thought anyone would see of him, but lo and behold, the next day he was back at his desk, and the bank had given him the bonus he wanted. I soon came to realize that the traders made so much money for the bank that they were really the ones running the show. The traders ran the bank. During my 9 years there, I lost count of how many times a trader said he would have me sacked because I did not attend to his IT problem above everyone else. I quickly learnt it was all bluff and posturing, and I grew a thick skin pretty quick. You had to in order to survive in such a high-pressure environment where any trader's system could cost the bank millions if it went down mid-trade or market collapse, etc. Anyway, just one of many incidents, but probably the most dramatic. Others were of a more humorous nature.